Hello, and welcome to Chapter 1, where we talk about managers and you in the workplace. Let's talk about our objectives for today. First off, we're going to tell who managers are and where they work and know how to manage our time. We're also going to explain why managers are important to organizations. We're going to describe the function, roles, and skills of managers and develop your skills at being politically aware. Describe the factors that are reshaping and redefining the manager's job, and also explain the value of studying management. All right, so first off, who is a manager? Okay, a manager is someone who coordinates and oversees the work of other people so the organizational goals can be accomplished. Okay, generally speaking, it's going to be your boss or someone who is supervising a group of people. When we classify managers, we see here in this graphic, there's a lot of non-managerial employees. Okay, when we talk about hospitality, your non-managerial employees are going to be your housekeepers, your front desk agents, your bussers, your bartenders, anyone who doesn't have any sort of management authority. Okay. Then we've got first line managers, and they work directly with those non managerial employees. Okay. So maybe a floor manager or a front desk manager, someone who is directly managing the operations of an organization. Then we have our middle managers, and the middle managers, they manage the first line managers. Okay. So maybe those are, depending on the size of your organization, your district managers, maybe your general managers in a large operation. And then you've got your top managers. They are going to make a lot of the organization-wide decisions. They'll establish the plans, the strategic goals. Those are your CEOs, your presidents, your director of operations, your director of marketing, your director of the different positions. And we have a lot less of those. We see in our triangle there, we have a lot of non-managerial employees. We have a lot less CEOs than we do have, bussers and front desk agents and things like that. All right, so where do managers work? All right, managers work for organizations. And organizations are a deliberate arrangement of people to accomplish some specific purpose. Okay, this can be your fraternity or your sorority. This can be your church. This can be the restaurant that you work at. This can be Target. This can be HEB. This can be many different things. Okay, we are looking when we talk about organizations, there's three different things that happen within an organization and they overlap. Organizations will all have a distinct purpose. They will all have a deliberate structure, and there will always be people in them. Okay. So you can even look at your family as an organization. Okay. So in my family, I have a distinct purpose, which is to keep my kids alive and raise them. There is a structure in this house. Okay. There is a hierarchy of the parents over the children. All right. And then there are people in this organization, all of our family members. So, why are managers important? Okay. So, managers are needed more than ever because we need their managerial skills. We need them directing. We need them controlling. We need their guidance. Okay. They are very critical to getting things done, and they definitely matter to organizations. So, let's think about a restaurant. Okay. A restaurant, let's think about busboys. Let's say a restaurant didn't have any managers, and it had maybe 4 or 5 busboys scheduled. Okay. Most of your employees are going to know what their tasks are and they're going to do them to the best of their ability. But will they necessarily do them how it aligns with the organization's goals? Okay. So, again, in a restaurant, maybe our goal is to serve, let's say, 100 people that night. That busboy might have responsibilities of cleaning tables and throwing trash and cleaning the restrooms and cleaning the parking lot. Well, the manager is going to decide when those jobs are done. Okay. So when guests are on the floor, they're making sure that they're cleaning off tables and they're making sure that the bathrooms are attended to. But if a busser simply goes off of, trying to complete things as fast as they believe possible, or just making decisions on when those things should be accomplished, maybe they're going to decide at 8 o'clock on a Friday that they should throw trash cans because they think that they have time. And even though that is part of their job responsibilities, it's not the best, it's not the best use of their time in that moment. And that's why managers, again, are important. So we see efficiency versus effectiveness, okay? And that's where managers are important. Efficiency is doing things right and getting the most output from the least amount of input. And then effectiveness is doing the right things and working towards attaining the organization's goals, all right? So again, let's say we have 4 busboys on the floor. We want to make sure that all their efforts are going towards, we don't want all 4 bussers to clean tables at the same time unless that's absolutely necessary, because there's other tasks that need to be accomplished. And we want to make sure that we are effective in using those staff members to reach our sales goals and reach our labor goals and hit our numbers and make sure that we are attaining the goals that we have set for ourselves for that night. When we talk about management, there are 4 functions of managers, okay? First would be planning, and that's defining goals, establishing strategies to achieve goals, and developing plans to integrate and coordinate activities, okay? So in terms of our restaurant example, that would be as simple as determining what the job function or what the job description is for the busser team. Then when it comes to organizing, that is arranging and structuring work to accomplish organizational goals. So examples of that might be posting the schedule, holding pre-shift meetings for your bussers, or assigning them different areas of responsibility. Then when it comes to leading, that's working with and through people to accomplish goals. All right. So that's giving them that information. Okay. We are going to direct our people to, again, clean the tables or clean the parking lot or throw the trash or whatever we're leading them to do at that moment. And then controlling is the monitoring, comparing, and the correcting of work. Okay. So that's maybe evaluating your labor costs for the evening. It might be performing shift reviews. It could be coaching them on the floor. It could be, when, let's say we're really slow and we're going to send people home, or we're going to call people in early. That would be an example of controlling. Along with the functions of management, there are different roles that we expect for managers to perform, okay? There's specific actions or behaviors expected of or exhibited by a manager, okay? And when you might hear something about Henry Mintzberg. He's someone who was one of the first people to actually study management, and he determined that there are 10 roles that our managers have. Okay. And they're grouped into 3 different kind of categories, and that's interpersonal, informational, and decisional. All right. The interpersonal part of the role of the manager is they're in charge. They're the leader. They are the figurehead for the organization. And they can also be seen as that liaison. So maybe in between different departments or between different operations, but they're going to be that go-to in between the different departments. They're also the informational head. So they monitor the information coming in. They also distribute the information as needed. And then most times they're the ones who are really the spokesperson, again, for the organization. Or even, let's say they have a PR person, right? They are really going to be in charge of that information that does go out. And then decisional. They are the ones that make the decisions on the organization. So if we are working towards some sort of innovation, They are the entrepreneur there. They work with the disturbances. Okay. So most of the times your managers will take care of, the hiring and the firing, or the customer relations, the service recovery. They will allocate resources, and then they also work to negotiate. Okay. So you think of maybe your purchasing manager negotiates different prices on things, or they negotiate with the guest, or maybe with when they sit down and they have performance reviews with your different employees. Managers also have to have three very important skills. You'll find that there are a lot of great employees that will not make good managers because they are lacking on one of these three skills. Okay. The first thing they need to know, they need to have technical skills. They need to have some sort of knowledge and proficiency in the field that they're working in. So a restaurant manager does not have to be the best busser or the best bartender or the best hostess or the best waiter, but they do need to have some sort of knowledge and some sort of ability to complete that job. When I was a restaurant manager, I definitely was not the best at working behind the line, cooking, grilling, things like that. But I did have the knowledge so that I could coach it, and my staff would respect me on that. Managers also have to have people skills. And this is the ability to work well with other people. So your human capital is one of your most valuable resources. And if you have a manager that can't work with them, then they're really not going to get a lot of things done, and they're going to be more detrimental to the organization than positive. And the last type of skill that a manager needs is conceptual skills. And this is the ability to kind of conceptualize ideas and situations that aren't necessarily presenting in front of you. So maybe it's the idea that we need to look in the future and hire more staff, or we look towards opening a new maybe a new location or a new vertical integration in the organization. It's different things. Maybe they're looking more long term out, and there's not, these things aren't presenting necessarily right in front of them. So we see here that every single manager, when we look back at that first diagram that had the non-managerial employees and the different levels of management, we have our lower, we have our middle, and our top, and they all need the three different skills. They all need technical, they all need human, they all need conceptual. But one thing that you might notice with this graphic here is that the human part, the human skills, they don't really, that size doesn't change. You're not going to see a good, successful manager that has enough technical skills to make up that the human connections. Or same thing, you're not going to find really a CEO that is so skillful at long-term planning or making strategic goals that they can overcome from lacking in that the human skills department. Okay. So, and I would even argue that especially when it comes to like lower level managers, when you're working in operations, if you can grow your human skills, they will make up for whatever technical skills that you're lacking. I know that when I was a manager, again, I wasn't the best at some of those skills in the back of the house, but I made enough connections with my employees that they used the time that I spent with them to teach me some of those technical skills. So things that I was lacking, if I could make connections again with my people, I could make up for for my shortcomings and my technical skills. So some important managerial skills are listed here. Let's talk about three of them. Okay. First one is managing human capital. We just talked about how our human skills are very important. Okay. Again, especially in hospitality right now, everybody's hiring, everybody's short-staffed. If we can't manage human capital, we're not very successful managers. They are the most important part of our operation. If we don't have them, we cannot move forward. We cannot reach our goals. Okay. So that moves into inspiring commitment. A good boss, a good manager is going to inspire their people to work harder for them, to take pride in their work, to do a better job. And again, those human skills are important. Making connections with your employees does help to inspire that commitment. And then one of the last things on this list, and again, they're all important, but sometimes we don't focus on the facilitating the psychological and social context of work. And what that really means is that going to work, you do make friends at work. You do build relationships at work. Especially in hospitality, you'll find lots of people that ended up in their relationships because of work. So that manager has to kind of manage the right amount of socializing on the job. They'll encourage team building, right? But they will also encourage efficiency and getting things done. So a manager can make sure that people are working very well together, making sure that they're building relationships. You do want your employees to be friends. It does help with your efficiency. Maybe, when they're younger, maybe they're not making the right choices, but as they get older, they build those relationships. It's a lot harder to leave a place where you really love the people. So a manager does have that job of making sure that relationships are built at work. We see throughout the list also they're managing this decision-making process. They manage the strategy and innovation. They manage the technology. They manage the change, which we've seen we've seen a lot of that in the last couple of years. They also need to focus on the customer. All right. Without customers, and especially in hospitality, we're typically going to call them guests. But without them, we'll cease to exist. We can have the best food in the restaurant. We can have the cleanest rooms in our hotel. But if we can't keep our customers, we really can't pay the bills, and we can't stay open. So they do manage those relationships, and they manage that consistent high quality customer service. They also manage the technology. So no matter what demographic you are as a manager, it's important that you understand what's relevant right now, what our guest likes, what our employee likes, what is good for the industry. And it's important that managers learn that, even if it's not their strong set. It's important that they understand that that's important, and they get the right people underneath them to either teach them or to make sure that they're managing it properly. Managers also need to focus on social media, especially restaurant managers these days. Let's think about, Yelp and Google reviews and different things online. There's a lot of things that they need to have, kind of have their finger on the pulse of. So maybe in a larger organization, they have somebody who manages that social media. But if you're in a smaller organization, or maybe run your own business, you need to be aware that that is something that you do need to manage. We also need to manage innovation and then sustainability. And the sustainability, when we talk about organizations, is really making sure that we've cultivated a business that is going to stay around for a long time. And then one of the most important things, again, we need to focus on is the employees. All right. So we have seen a big change in the last couple decades of how employees are being treated, especially in hospitality. So as managers, we want to make sure that we are treating employees well, because it's not just the right thing to do. It's good for business. Okay. Employees now do know that they have other options and other places that they can go work. So if we're not treating our employees right, we won't have the staff to open up our operation. Challenges of being a manager. I was a manager for 20 years. It was a great job. I really enjoyed it, but I will tell you there are some challenges. Sometimes it can definitely be thankless. There's a lot of work that goes into it, and some people don't understand everything that it takes, and sometimes the mental and the emotional toll it takes on you. Sometimes there's clerical duties that you really, I did not sign up to be a manager just so I can complete my paperwork. But it was part of the job, and it is just one of those things that you have to do. Managers can also spend significant amounts of time in dealing with interruptions in meetings. So you can make the best plan, but if your dishwasher doesn't show up, you might be in the dish pit that night washing dishes. And then we also have to deal with a variety of personalities. And sometimes you have to make do with limited resources. Okay. So when it comes to especially your human capital, it might not be the right person that you're hiring, but you're going to have to utilize that person to do the job because they might be the best person available. But it is very rewarding as well. You can be very responsible for creating a productive work environment as you develop as a manager, as you get better at it. Those good shifts, those really successful ones where you hit all your goals and it goes smoothly and your employees really appreciate you. It's very rewarding. You can have recognition and status in your organization. So some of those roles that you can have come with very nice titles. So it's nice to tell people that you are the COO or the CEO or the director of operations or something like that. And a lot of those come with some nice compensation. So whatever your structure of your salary is, there are bonuses. Depending on who you work for, there might be stock options as well. So why should we study management? I think the most obvious reason is at some point in your life, you're going to work and you're going to be managed. It's important to understand these things, especially if we look towards moving up within an organization or becoming managers ourselves. We kind of want to understand those principles as we determine our management style and think about how we do the job. And all organizations do need some form of management. So again, it's very important to understand how we can do it right. And then it's also important to understand when things aren't going right. And we can identify challenges and we can identify some shortcomings before they become detrimental to our organization. All right, well, that is the end of the first lecture, chapter 1. Thank you so much for listening. You should move on to your next video, which is going to be our tent demonstration, which is your assignment for this week. So go ahead and get on with that, and we will see you next week.